Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasati.
Hare Krishna, welcome back. I'm continuing the Bhagavad-gita. We're reading the second chapter where Arjuna has expressed his doubts and Krishna is now clarifying all of that with somehow more of a spiritual perspective than maybe expected from the original question. Because that is at the heart of every doubt, at every crossroad in life. What do we choose? What is our priority? And to know that, we have to understand something about the present situation. And the most dominant element of any situation is ourselves. Who am I? What do I want? In order to know what I want and how to go about it, I have to know who I am. So that is the first main part of the second chapter of the Bhagavad-gita. Text 27. Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityur dhruvang janma mritasya cha tasmada pariharyerthe natvang shochitum arhasi. One who has taken his birth is sure to die, and after death one is sure to take birth again. Therefore, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament. This comes back in all these verses. It is very much based on Arjuna's lamentation, sochitum, anusochitum, sochitum, to lament. This is something we do in this world, we lament. But some knowledge will help us clear up a lot of this lamentation, because a lot of the lamentation is baseless. Of course, there is a basic element of lamentation. While living in this material world, everything is temporary. Everything will die. Every situation will change. And if we are holding on to that material body, to that material situation, it will always be broken. We will always be broken-hearted. There will be so much lamentation. But if we can rise our consciousness, our understanding of the world to that platform where all these temporary things that change, that is not our identity. We identify as the spirit soul, and those circumstances that we are attached to, they have a spiritual nature. Then, more or less automatically, the element of lamentation is simply removed from the situation. Yes, I will read something of the purport, of course. One has to take birth according to one's activities of life, and after finishing one term of activities, one has to die to take birth for the next. In this way, one is going through one cycle of birth and death after another without liberation. The cycle of birth and death does not, however, support unnecessary murder, slaughter, and war. But at the same time, violence and war are inevitable factors in human society for keeping law and order. Yes, that's the basic understanding. The circle of samsara, the wheel of samsara, birth and death, based on our activities. And when we say activity, we mean karma. Karma is a Sanskrit word for activity. It doesn't just mean activity, it means the whole scope. What brings on the activity, what is the result of the activity, and once we are reaping the results of that activity, what is the next activity based on our desire? So that is the material world. And that is the fact of life. We will live and we will die. But those activities, how do we choose which activities to perform? We have to have some knowledge. If I see a fire, I know putting my hand in the fire will not give me a very positive result. It will hurt my hand, maybe my clothes will start burning, maybe I will die. It's a very foolish thing, and why would I even put my hand in the fire? Nobody puts their hand in the fire unless they're, a young child who has no idea what a fire is. But many of the other activities performed in life, they are similarly not bringing on a good long-term result. They may be very attractive. We have those, what are they called, moths. When they see a fire, they are irresistibly drawn to fly into it. And no good results will come of that, but they can't stop it. And if we have light on in the house, they will fly on the windows. Somehow there is an impulse to go towards the fire, and in the same time we have some impulses for following the impulses of our senses. They want to eat, they want to hear, they want to touch, so many things. But as intelligent living entities, it is important to understand what is the result of those activities. The battle of Kurukshetra, being the will of the Supreme, was an inevitable event, and to fight for the right cause is the duty of a Kshatriya. Why should he be afraid of or aggrieved at the death of his relatives, since he was discharging his proper duty? This sounds a little cold. The fact, though, that what Bhagavad-gita is trying to establish is whether or not Arjuna would kill his relatives in this battle, they would all die. They would either die on the battlefield, most likely they would all die on the battlefield, and even if they didn't, they would die eventually. So when we determine what is the right course of action, we can't just see the first immediate step, we have to see the second step, the third step, the whole scope of consequences, and that is very difficult. It is very difficult to see the scope of our consequences, to see what is a result, what is an activity, and what is a result. This is impossible. We cannot see into the future any more than we can see through a wall. Therefore, especially in the Vedic society, and particularly when we are studying the path of Bhakti Yoga, we take instructions from Krishna. But in order to be able to do that with a peaceful heart, with some trust, we have to have a little bit of a better understanding. So here we do understand. Arjuna, actually he knew this. He knew that as a Kshatriya he had certain duties. That was one of the reasons this battle was being fought. His cousins had, by cheating in battle, that's how they came to own the country, to be the rulers of the country, which should by right have been ruled by Arjuna and his brothers, the Pandavas. And here they are saying, we don't need a kingdom, we just need the opportunity to perform our duty. And as Kshatriyas, we have to be the rulers and protectors of a kingdom. This kingdom doesn't have to be very big. You can give us a village. If you don't need the whole big kingdom, just give us a village. You can keep the kingdom. We're fine. And they are just arrogantly laughing and saying, we are not going to give you as much land as you can stick a pin in. Then Krishna says, now we have come to the end of the road. We cannot resolve the situation. We will simply have to accept. The next step is a battle. The next step is a war. So there's really no way around this in the situation. We may have philosophies and ideas, and of course we cannot compare this to today's wars. Today's wars are not fought with a sense of duty. The Kshatriya, as a class, they are trained, they are qualified, they are expected to protect people, and if they are attacked, they will be on the front line fighting the aggressors face to face. It is not a question of rounding up all the 18 years old and putting them in airplanes to bomb civilians. That is not a war. That is not proper. That is not right. It's not a question of burning villages or hurting people. It's an established part of societies. Those who are trained up as Kshatriyas, they meet face to face on a battlefield when the other aspects of statesmancraft, of diplomacy and so on have not yielded the proper result. So here, that's the situation they are in. And in that situation, Arjuna is supposed to be strong and powerful and convinced in his service. Somehow or another he has been full of doubts here. And one reason is, of course, that we shall get the opportunity to hear Bhagavad-gita. And another is that this is in a very unusual situation. Nevertheless, Arjuna is a Kshatriya. He's supposed to be there to protect his people, to protect the proper way of running a government. The proper way of running a government is not to cheat your cousins in a gambling match to take over the power. That is, from the start, this is totally the wrong motivation. And somebody who starts off with that type of motivation cannot be expected to run the society in such a way that it's beneficial for everybody else. So that's part of the whole situation here. Yes. He did not deserve to break the law, thereby becoming subjected to the reaction of sinful acts of which he was so afraid. By avoiding the discharge of his proper duty, he would not be able to stop the death of his relatives, and he would be degraded due to his selection of the wrong path of action. So here we have some more description of the law of karma. If you know your duty, if you understand the law of karma, at least as far as you are concerned, you know that by doing your duty, it does not give you karma. Just like in general, if you use violence, I'm from Sweden, and here we have the concept of a monopoly on violence. The police force, they have a monopoly on violence. Nobody else is allowed to use violence. Yes, maybe you can have a game, you can do some wrestling and so on. You cannot use violence to get your way in business or in relationships or anything else. That is illegal. I don't have the proper terms, but you go and beat someone up, a law is covering that. You're not allowed to do that. What to speak of killing someone, what to speak of murder. Although a police officer in his discharge of duty, he's allowed to use the minimal level of necessary violence in order to stop a crime from happening, to hold a perpetrator there so he can be arrested, or to protect the innocent public from the effects of a violent criminal offender. That is his right in the law. He will not be judged on the same term as a private individual who goes into a violent activity, because the law covers this. Of course, you cannot just go in and be a violent person and become a policeman to have a good excuse for it. There are certain laws that cover that as well. But as long as you do your duty, the law is arranged in such a way. And similarly, the law of karma is also arranged in that way. If it is your duty to be a peaceful brahmana, to study, to give knowledge, to be renounced, to protect everybody's spiritual life, in that perspective, by giving the proper path and knowledge and method for spiritual life, you're not supposed to use violence. That is not your duty. And similarly, a kshatriya who is on the battlefield protecting his kingdom is not expected to run away or to start crying or to start recite poetry or something. That is not his duty. Similarly, a Vaishya is supposed to feed the country by growing food and protecting the cows, so we have sufficient food stuff, and also doing some business. They are certainly not supposed to, they have to be there, otherwise what do we eat? The Kshatriyas have to be there, otherwise how do we avoid being overrun by those out to take advantage of the situation and destroy the fabric of society? And without the brahmanas to give us guidance, how do we even live? So everybody, in doing their duty, they do not accrue any bad karma. Avoiding to do the duty or doing somebody else's duty, immediately you lose that protection of the lawful situation within those instructions from the Vedas. There is an interesting story. There was a brahmana who was traveling, and he wasn't able to find anything to eat, and he was traveling, he becoming more and more hungry. So in the end, there was a house there, and he knocked on the door and he said, "I'm so sorry, but I'm so hungry. Will you feed me?" And they said, of course, please come in." And they were feeding him something, and he ate it, and then the food was finished, and they said, "I am still hungry. Anyway, who are you? What is this house?" "Oh, we are," I don't remember which group, but they were meat eaters. They were not within the society of a Brahminical lifestyle, and they were also very poor. So we gave you what we have and now it's finished. We're sorry. And the Brahmana is like, I lost my caste and I am still hungry. So it's like that with whimsical activities. We don't achieve what we thought we wanted to achieve, but we lose the protection of acting within our dharmic situation. So this is an interesting backdrop to Bhakti Yoga to understand how a Vedic society, Varnashram society is functioning. Above that, we may aim for, again, establishing a society based on these principles. This will be very slow work because it's a very intricate science and we don't have a full grasp of how to completely structure society in that way. Above these laws are the principles of Bhakti Yoga, the principles of yoga to elevate the soul to the level of spiritual realization, which is the ultimate duty as a human being living in this world. So there are, how to say, different types of duty for different groups of people, but the more important duty is to find that level where we are engaged in Bhakti Yoga. Of course, Arjuna, he's combining the two, because at this point he's standing in front of his dear friend Krsna, who is asking him to do this service of battle. So at the same time he's fulfilling his duty as a kshatriya, but ultimately he's stepping into the activity of the pure soul, of acting in service to Krishna under his instruction. And that is the safest place for all of us. And by reading Bhagavad-gita, that's where we want to come, where we can safely step into our service to Krishna in full faith and knowledge. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for watching. We aim for updates every Tuesday and Friday. Please come back. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down there. We also have some links and information for you. And there is, of course, the subscribe button. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
I'm a Hare Krishna, and I approve this message. Subscribe.
Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Juta Padakamalang